Damn, that right there was the deep end, Adam. I got to tell you.
That's as deep as it gets.
But roll the tape. I'll tell you what I just saw.
I'm rolling.
Welcome to the deep end, Adam. Nice to see you.
Great to see you. Great to hear from you. Nice to have you. You know, what time is it there? Noon?
It is 3:36 Hawaiian time. I am on the island of Maui at Kaanapali Beach. Over my right shoulder is the island of Lanai, which might not be visible. The sun is like right behind me. It makes it very tough to see you. But you said it looks okay, so.
Yeah, no, it looks great. Are you ever coming back?
The plan is yes.
Okay.
This weekend, but it's tempting, right? Like you just.
Oh yeah.
This. I mean, I'm sure many people who will watch us have been here. This is my first time here. I turned 50 on Sunday, so I'm here with my family, and you just hear like paradise and perfect and these kinds of things, but I'm telling you, it really does live up to it. And the islands are different from each other. Spent some time in Oahu last week. And so there's different kind of lifestyles and just so much to do. You really don't ever have to think about the weather because in the morning when you wake up at sunrise, it's like 68, 70 degrees. And then it stays about 85, 86, almost every day of the year. It's really amazing. So to never have to sort of think about, do I need a jacket today? Do I need to rearrange plans because of weather? Do the kids have baseball? Is it going to snow? Just all these kinds of things. Like there just don't exist, it seems, in Hawaii, which is maybe one of lots of things about it that's it's interesting and different. But I'm having a great time, and I'm glad to be talking some fantasy football here with you because I haven't been able to do that with anybody here in a while. So I feel like I've missed a lot.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say you've probably been a while. It's because you haven't been at work talking sports. So here you are, just.
Right.
Ready to dive into the deep end.
And we'll start with the Draft Sharks Invitational, which I thought I'd see your name in yellow, or I guess we have the different format here, but you're still chasing.
I'm still chasing. It's frustrating. I think I lost 2 points on the leader, Chad Schrader. He loses Derrick Henry, and I still can't catch him. This is the week, though. I told him, I put him on notice this week. I said, listen, Najee Harris. I got Najee Harris against Detroit. He should go 100 points all by himself. So
top-rated running back for the week.
Yes, top-rated running back for the week. So I'm definitely excited about that. So yeah, Chad, this is it, and he, it's inevitable. But we had a couple new people arrive in the top 10. Austin Martin, I think, is new to the top 10 this year. Alex has been in and out. He's been trading with Lenny Papano. So welcome back, Alex. And it's gonna be a fun second half of the season.
Scott Fish hanging in as division leader in his group.
Yeah.
We talked to Chad last week, and I think you were like sort of primed to catch him. Did he have Derrick Henry on his team? Maybe.
Yeah.
He mentioned that, but it was the kind of week in fantasy where a lot of people probably thought they had advantages that they didn't end up having. Just a very strange, challenging week for a lot of people, I know, including you.
Yeah, I mean, Hell Week is probably the week to call. It was funny. So it was probably the worst. It was definitely my worst week of the year and probably my worst week ever. And I've been doing high stakes for about 10 years. Probably my worst week ever as far as wins and losses and just point scoring. Like I had a ton of teams just score under 100 points.
Yeah.
Some of them, I went back and looked. I finally had the heart to go back and look. I won a game with 89 points. Like it was the wildest week. And a lot of people on Twitter, I posted to Twitter about it, kind of, venting. And a lot of people were like, yeah, man. I mean, even Fantasy Mojo reached out. He was like, this might have been the lowest scoring week ever. Scott Connor, he does he does the math on stuff like this. I think he said the median score was like 115. Like if you scored over 115 points, you probably won, which is just impossible, So it was just a week where, the backups were scoring, the backups to the backups were scoring touchdowns. I mean, you had third string tight ends for the Chargers scoring touchdowns. It was just, it was unfortunate for those who weren't starting the third string tight end. So,
Right.
So yeah, it was a really bad week, but in people who don't play high stakes and people who don't play like a lot of DFS, it's a roller coaster of emotion. It's a grind of a season. Like the week before was probably my best week of the year. And then to go from that high to that low, it takes a toll on you mentally. It takes a toll on you emotionally when you're grinding and you have got, tens of thousands of dollars on the line. But, you got to kind of regroup quickly. And waiver. That's the good thing about waivers on Wednesdays. You got to regroup and you got to get into your grind again, listening to the podcast that you use and read the articles that you use, even though you don't want to go back to it, at least me. But yeah, we're on to week 10. How was your week 9?
It wasn't bad. I mean, I was watching and I'm certainly aware of how it could have been difficult watching Dallas, for one, have such a tough time. The Bills, like Cincinnati, teams that, they're not always the best guys, but this year often they've been the best guys. The Bengals in particular, and that really they had a lot of bad luck in that game. I don't think you meant to call George Kittle a third string tight end. He was one tight end that worked out, and that was nice to see. And, Jonathan Taylor, right, on Thursday night.
Sure.
There were a few studs that did come through, and if you just happen to have the right combination, like always in fantasy, you were okay. And there was James Conner.
Yeah.
And, I mean, in my FFPC, I went 6-2. And nice. I just happened to luck out, I think, playing Edmonds teams and having Connor teams. So a huge advantage there. And we'll get to Arizona's backfield, I imagine, when we talk about some waiver pickups later on. But, Adam, this is, for the high-stakes players watching us, like this is the time of year where if you're good, even if you have a chance at the playoffs that's realistic, you're probably thinking about the playoffs and, which backup players you might need as insurance, even that in terms of kickers, perhaps, or defenses, things like that. Handcuffs. What are a couple strategies that you think come into play as you get closer to the playoffs? Because you have to plan on making it. You might not realistically get there. You have a chance of missing, but you have to plan on it. So how do you plan for it?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I went through a lot of my lineups. I went through all my lineups this week and was kind of looking at that, like what do the playoffs look like for me? And I have a lot of teams that, when you go, especially FFPC, you go and you see your record, you're like, oh man, 3-5 or whatever, 4-5. Then you look like, oh my gosh, I'm the fourth highest scoring team. Like I'm 30 points from a playoff spot. And I got 3 weeks to make it up. So it's like, with FFPC structure, you're always alive. If you're scoring points or if you're winning, you're always alive. So it's hard to just kick teams to the curb and not prep for the playoffs. So, a lot of stuff's difficult to do. Like, you can look at a strength of schedule and say, oh, this running back, has a great playoff schedule, like, Najee Harris or something, but Najee Harris isn't available. His handcuff gets no touches. So, you can know that. Now you should have been playoff prepping for that at draft time, which we kind of told people to do. Like, hey, look at the strength of schedule because it does matter. But I think there is some stuff that you do have control over. So I know a lot of people only carry one quarterback or they stream them. So I use the strength of schedule kind of app on the Draft Sharks website, and you can filter it by week. You can filter it by anything here. And so I pull that up, and so yeah, there are some interesting quarterback matchups down the stretch where if you're only carrying one quarterback or if you're streaming them, there are available quarterbacks. Derek Carr is probably not available, but he's got the best remaining strength of schedule. The Texans, Jags, Niners are the next three after that. So those are certainly quarterback situations or quarterbacks that you can snag off waivers. Just, Houston gets Jacksonville and San Francisco 2 of their last 3 weeks. The Jaguars get the Jets in the playoffs. The Niners get the Falcons and Houston and Tennessee. So there's situations where maybe you pick up Garoppolo or you pick up Lance and hold them. That's stuff that you do have control over. Even if you've got a Tom Brady, or even if you've got a Jalen Hurts or something like that, I'm still picking up one of these QBs because, especially in FFPC, there is no waivers during the 3-week chase. So like you don't want to go in with a bad quarterback matchup or one quarterback, so go grab another quarterback that's got a good strength of schedule here. And that's kind of how you can prep for it. Quarterbacks, defenses, and kickers.
Kickers seem like you really have to do the same thing. And this was a problem for me last year, the way it turned out. Look at some of those guys bouncing around. I mean, who knows? Zerline to the COVID list, Badgley to the Colts, and then Hopkins to the Chargers, and Joey Sly. And just like there's always this movement at kicker where, I don't know, it felt like growing up, it was never like that. You had one kicker like the whole season, but I don't know. COVID's different, but injuries or just, what Washington did with Hopkins and, Boswell getting hurt like he did, just it's bumpy. So you got to have that second one. And obviously you have to make room for these players. So some of those handcuffs, somebody that you've carried maybe most of the season just in case, an Alexander Madison could be interesting here. Now, Madison, maybe not the best example because Cook's status is a little bit in doubt.
Sure.
And Madison had some very good weeks as a starter, but I feel like maybe not Madison necessarily, but guys that you've started are the ones that end up getting cut because you got to make room for those other possible outcomes. And I don't know, wide receivers over running backs, I guess, for this, but you got to cut somebody that's probably helped you.
Right. Correct. Yeah. You got to cut somebody eventually. Don't cut a running back. We never cut running backs unless it's Trey Sermon.
So Madison's not a good example. Who's a good example of somebody? Boy, so many of these running backs have been used. Hubbard, I don't know.
Well, Hubbard or even, Booker. When Barkley comes back, maybe you got to cut Booker. If Barkley shows good for 2 weeks, it's going to be, you're going to have to cut guys that have helped you. You're going to have to cut probably receivers that just you've been holding on to. You got to carry 2 quarterbacks. You got to carry 2 kickers, especially with COVID. You got to carry these guys. If you're fortunate enough to have a dominant deep, like I have the Bills in a lot of places where the Bills have been really good and they've got such a beautiful schedule that and COVID doesn't knock out an entire team usually, or injury can't knock out a whole team. So, you don't have to worry about the Bills being injured, So in those leagues, I will carry 1 defense and I will carry, 2 kickers, 2 quarterbacks and, whatever. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. Each team is going to be unique as to who there are teams when you kind of get down to it at the end of the year, there are teams where I'm cutting players off of and on other teams where those players are available, I'm putting in bids for them, maybe not targeting them, but they're available. And I'm, this team, I really need a receiver, and this team I've got 7 receivers and no running back. So I got to cut the 7th receiver and bye weeks and injuries. So it's team dependent. And after week 11, the players that you drop can't be picked up again. So
let me give you three names for tonight, just that have popped into my head for this, Adam, just your quick reaction. Odell Beckham.
What am I doing with him?
Are you hanging on to Odell Beckham because he's going to sign and then maybe he'll help? Or is he somebody that you've got a good team, you're going to the playoffs, you've got a couple of position, your kicker, defense, quarterback, whatever, maybe all 3, where you want to start to be adding backups? Would you cut Odell Beckham for that?
I would under no circumstances would I cut him now. Maybe after week 11, when cut players are locked, would I consider it like maybe he signs with a team and it's going to take him 3 weeks to get going or whatever, and I just don't have room. But I don't think even then I don't think I would cut him.
Okay,
but go ahead.
What about Claypool?
Oof.
No way.
No
Claypool
way.
Has an injury. The report today was not considered season ending. What does that mean? It means he's not going to play this week or next week, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a consideration. Season ending.
Yeah, right. Not considered season ending. What do I do with that?
Right. Turf toe. No, I'm not cutting him. I'm annoyed. I'm super annoyed with him. But I will say that James Washington is one of my waiver wire targets for this week.
Okay. Devontae Parker. Maybe that's easy.
Yeah. Cut Devontae Parker. Cut Robbie Anderson. Cut Good. These guys. Yeah. I mean, Robbie Anderson. He's had his chance. The only thing about Robbie Anderson, give him take that back. Rewind the tape. Give him a week with, is it PJ Walker? Is that who's the next quarterback up?
I mean, that's 3-4 weeks, I guess. What else are they going to do?
Give him a week with PJ Walker, and maybe he clicks with PJ Walker. But even then, it's like at this point, I see half the leagues Robbie Anderson was available. So if you want him, you can go pick him up anyways. So I'm cutting Devontae Parker for sure. And maybe not for sure, but if I need to drop someone, I'm not hesitating to cut him or Robbie.
I think maybe the bottom line on this is the forcing cuts to back up those onesie positions can wait a week or two, even.
Correct.
It can wait.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Then you'll know. I mean, you'll know better whether you're going to the playoffs, and then it's sort of done. But to plan for it, maybe you don't need to plan. You don't need to really force a cut to be doing that here in week 10.
Yeah, don't force. Yeah, don't force those cuts. Will Fuller's another one. Don't force those cuts. Wait for those onesie positions. Wait for the final week before. In your main event playoffs, your league playoffs, you can still, if you're in, you can still make adds and drops. So you wait as long as you can.
Will Fuller, yikes, good name. Are the birds too loud?
No, not at all. Is that Nico Biko back there?
That is definitely not Nico Biko. He stayed back. Did some snorkeling yesterday, by the way.
Ooh, are you a certified snorkeler?
I don't know how to get. I don't have any certification, but I did it. I got pictures. I'm a provable snorkeler. How about that?
There you go.
I even had the equipment on the show. All right. Number one wide receivers. Talk to me.
Yeah, I just wanted to. This is more of just a talking point about the defenses that are being rolled out there against some of these top high flying passing offenses. The Bills, the Chiefs, the Rams you saw on Sunday night. A lot of these high flying offenses, these defenses are playing these cover 2 shells that don't allow for the number one receivers to get deep, the number one outside alpha receivers. We're talking Tyreek Hill. We're talking Stephon Diggs. We're talking, DK Metcalf, those type guys. It's very difficult for them to get open deep down the field. And so, I've been listening to, podcasts, people talk about, well, what do we do with Stephon Diggs? What do we do with Tyreek Hill? And it's like, you're starting them obviously, but you're not planning on them, being what you drafted them to be. I'm in the 3K, the $3,000 varsity in FFPC, and I went 0 RB and I went Diggs and Hill, and they've been fine for me, but they haven't been electrifying. Hill's had a couple electrifying weeks, but at this point, I'm not counting on Diggs to have an electrifying week because he's had an easy schedule and he hasn't done it. So I just wanted to let people know, be on notice with these high flying passing offenses, these inside receivers are smashing. I mean, I think Cole Beasley's got either is top 10 in catches or targets or something. You got Cooper Kupp who works out of the slot. Like, these slot guys are killing it on these high flying offenses. But these outside guys, don't plan on them getting back to what you thought they were going to be.
Well, that's interesting because you can count on it or not count it, but it's not going to change anything. And one thing you said was you're still playing them, and there's no doubt about that. I mean, Tyreek Hill had maybe 7 fantasy points this week. Diggs, in a game where the Bills scored 6 points, might have had 14 or 15. It's a usable number. It's kind of been his season for the most part. Then you have Kupp, who you mentioned inside, who had in the 20s again. He seems like he's unstoppable. But I have an FBG team with Hill and Diggs, and I love it. And I'm not assuming 25, 30-point weeks, but when I look at my lineup in those builds, I love those lineups. And that means Tony Pollard or A.J. Dillon or, James Conner was drafted kind of in that range. Right?
Leonard Fournette
was drafted in those ranges. So depending on your combination, you might be in great shape with a stack. I'm still not feeling like the Chiefs or the Bills, especially the Chiefs. The Chiefs are the best example for this, that it's over.
No,
I do think with Kelsey, maybe we're talking about age a little bit. I mean, those guys. There was a tweet today, and I'm sorry that I can't source it right now, but there was a point about how they're not separating.
Yeah.
And that happens to everybody. I don't know if Tyreek Hill, he's been mentioned for injuries throughout the season, and those kinds of things can just really, really change your fortunes. So
yeah, and I don't mean to have people panic, and the other thing is too, like, just shift over to so maybe a better fantasy application is shift over to the number 2, Emanuel Sanders. I've started with a smile on my face the last 2 weeks, and he got 0 and 6. So he's a guy that's an outside receiver on a team that's facing defenses that won't let the outside receivers cook, and so they're unstartable. So that becomes a kind of, you can apply that to your fantasy team, and that's what does stink about those. But yeah, no, I wouldn't panic on those on those guys, on those outside number ones, but just kind of be aware that it's probably not going to happen, at least not as consistently as we thought it was.
Just quickly, Adam, I'm assuming you're paying close attention to this player. What happened to Mike Williams?
That's Big Mike. Some people think it's the knee injury still, but I got to tell you, I watched a lot of his game on Sunday, and he could have easily had a touchdown. They threw to him inside the 10-yard line. It was a miscommunication. He went in, the pass went out. If he goes out, he scores. He caught a real deep one in that game too. Like, he looks fine to me. I'm wondering if it's, if teams are really keying in on him, or if it's, again, if the Chargers are getting the treatment that the Bills and Chiefs are getting. They're not letting these outside receivers cook down the field. Now, I read a thing about, who do they play this week? The Vikings?
Yes.
Yeah, the Vikings allow like the third most pass attempts over 20 yards on the season, so he might be a guy, a bounce back candidate. But yeah, it's 6 fantasy points every week for Mike Williams for the past 3 weeks. He's one of these outside guys. It's gonna, he might be a better example of a guy that is a board. I don't want to say he's borderline startable, because you're definitely starting him, but a guy that you don't even feel as confident about him as you did about Diggs and Tyreek Hill.
You're definitely starting him. Definitely starting him.
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess it depends. So that's a good question. So
what about Waddle? Would you start him over Waddle?
Yes.
You would.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's just maybe because I loved him going into the year. Maybe I'm blinded to the fact. And there's also teams where, okay, if you took him in the 9th round, you might have 3 or 4 stud receivers already. So maybe you went Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, Cooper Kupp. Then are you starting Michael? Probably not. But I still would start him. Herbert loves him. I think he's going to bounce back this week.
Would you start him over Adam Thielen?
No.
Okay.
No.
Just the name I thought of. That's all.
I know. Thielen didn't have a good week last week anyway, but I think he still did. He scored.
He got that 1-yard touchdown. That guy. There's Devontae Adams. There's Diggs to an extent. Not that he piles up touchdowns, but certain guys are just so cool to watch on short yard, like red zone, 1 yard, the 1 yard line. Devontae Adams. I don't know how many he's got, but when you watch Green Bay and they're at the 1, you're like, Devontae Adams is in play. And for Minnesota, with Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen is in play. It's so cool to watch him run that route. And for the ball placement, sometimes it is really outstanding stuff.
And not only is Devontae Adams in play, he's usually the play. It's shocking.
First option, right?
It's shocking if he doesn't actually get the touchdown. Well, of course, now that I look at the strength of schedule, the Vikings have the worst strength of schedule for receivers this week, but and the Chargers are actually top 7. But yeah, I mean, that's tough. That is a tough one.
Well, big name to, worry about this week as we get closer to the high stakes playoffs is Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
And he did not practice. We saw New Orleans move to Mark Ingram. And, the first thought I had was, man, Kamara has been getting so much volume. I get it. And now we're wondering if he's healthy enough going forward. Like, I don't know exactly where that stands, but is there anybody beyond Ingram that matters there? Like, Ingram could be in a home run position.
Yes, Ingram. Always add running backs. Never drop running backs.
That Louis. So Louis G, who's been on with us, my partner on a couple teams, he wanted Mark Ingram 3 weeks ago, and I hated it. I mean, I wanted Lindsey over Mark Ingram. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, I don't think he was predicting the trade, but the trade was nice. It certainly wasn't bad. And then right away, you saw Ingram. I mean, they're throwing the ball to him. And Tennessee this week, by the way, for the Saints, Kamara is a concern. I don't know what to do about it, really, because Ingram is probably owned in most places.
Oh yeah. Ingram. Yeah. I mean, it's hopefully it's Taysom Hill this week too. You know what I mean? So like Taysom Hill might be a problem for Kamara moving forward. So
or Ingram, right?
Or Ingram, yeah. So you're not super excited about. I mean, if you have Ingram, you're ecstatic. Like you got a free RB2 this week if Kamara doesn't play. That's how I feel about James Conner. Well, he wasn't free. We took him in the 7th through the 10th round, but yeah. So I mean, listen, can I tell you, I hate Wednesdays. I mean, listen, let me read this. You just go on, I'm on draftsharks.com. Keenan Allen out Wednesday, Brown out Wednesday, Jamal Williams out Wednesday, Zach Moss out Wednesday, Cole Beasley held out Wednesday. This guy, James, like what?
Every week.
It's gross.
I know, every week.
It's so depressing. And waivers, we need to move FFPC. We need to move waivers back to, we can't do Thursdays because of the game. But
Thursday night football is killing us slowly.
Because it is. Like I love the fact that there's Thursday night football. But
me too. It just changes. If you're into this like we are, it just so affects your life. Like you get to Friday and Saturday, you can breathe a little bit. You can't sleep, but you can breathe at least. But Monday night, Tuesday is serious. Wednesday is a long work day, if you will.
Yes.
And then Thursday is the game lineups, and then you can take a little bit of a nap and then kick off again on Sunday. So Thursday night football, without it, I mean, you probably played seriously in the pre-Thursday night football days. I really wasn't. Like I played in the 90s just with friends. I'm old enough to be able to claim that. But then I sort of not only gave it up, but sort of disliked it. Like I didn't want to play fantasy in the 2000s. Like I don't have any stories for you about Priest Holmes or LaDainian Tomlinson. Like I don't know. Like the Chad last week couldn't think of Ryan Matthews. Like I can't help. I wasn't playing then.
That's right.
So Thursday night has been a part of it since I got into it. And man, it just the weeks blend together, or like Monday night into Thursday night. It's all just sort of you're not taking any break there.
Right, exactly. And so, yeah, and like I said, I would love waivers to move back to Thursdays because now you got all these guys that are injured that you don't know. Are they? Is it just a rest day? Are they okay? Do I need to pick up their backup? Like you just don't know. And so Wednesday night waivers ends up being, a lot of guys that are successful are guys that kind of think 2 steps ahead. Kind of get those players that maybe, and maybe we'll give you a couple of those tonight towards the end here, and that can help you out this week.
Benjamin is such a player, and he's somebody. This is a couple weeks in a row where I cut guys that became relevant, and Benjamin is somebody I cut last week because I just decided, you know what, if it's not Edmonds, it's going to be Connor. I don't think and I still kind of feel that way, but because I think it's Connor's backfield because he didn't get hurt, but like you have to find room if you have injuries, tight end, or quarterback, bye weeks, whatever you got to find room. And Benjamin is somebody that I bailed on last week to a different extent. It was Ozigbo. Because I was carrying Ozigbo on the Saints. Like he is the guy behind Kamara. He was, I thought. And then he ended up they traded for Ingram. He goes to the practice squad. Jacksonville claimed him. Like, well, I don't need him anymore. But that was before Jacksonville claimed him. Now maybe he ends up being relevant. But again, not likely. I don't know if you want to get to Benjamin here. I know you want to talk about handcuffs a little bit. He is in play, and he's also, I guess, a handcuff in the present because Edmonds is probably a few weeks, it seems.
Yeah, Edmonds is at least a few weeks. The high ankle sprain, I mean, that's 4 to 6. You know what I mean? It's Benjamin is a must add, and Benjamin is a target, like a priority. Like, I don't know if you saw the run. Did you see the touchdown run he had?
No.
He ran over a man and took his soul. Like he ran through a guy.
That person needs to come here. Whoever that player was needs to come join me back here. He'll be back.
That's right. Like if ESPN was still doing the jacked up segment on Monday Night, like that would have been on that segment. It was an incredible touchdown run. And I've heard too, a lot of and I've heard this a couple times this year, and I just from really smart people, and we talk about utilization and what the like. Well, this guy went down. Like, listen, coaches are creatures of habit, and they go through their weeks, and they got guys getting certain reps and their responsibilities and their roles. They weren't planning on using Eno Benjamin. Okay, so when Chase Edmonds gets hurt, Eno Benjamin didn't get the type of role that people would have been. Oh, well, look, they're really going to use him. They weren't. Eno Benjamin wasn't running with the ones all week. He probably didn't know the playbook like top to bottom like he should have. And James Conner is James Conner. Like he's a serviceable veteran running back that knows all the plays. All that to say that don't look at last week's how they used him to point to how they're going to use him in the next 4 to 6 weeks. I mean, he could have a major role in this offense because this team has hopes of the Super Bowl. They're not about to run James Conner into the ground either. Like, and I love James Conner. Like, this is James Conner's season. Conner's going to smash, but he's not getting 100% of the work. Like, Eno Benjamin is going to be involved. And if James Conner gets hurt, which he's done his whole career, Eno Benjamin is an RB2. So,
well, I agree with you. I think they're interesting. I mean, Conner has 11 touchdowns, Adam, in the last 7 games.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And that's with Edmonds playing through, the beginning of Sunday's game. So even as like a part-time, if you will, part-time running back, he had 11 touchdowns, and it wasn't just like on goal line, right? So what was said about Arizona? What was said about Edmonds in the offseason? Well, not complete, right? Can't see him being their every down back. They have Eno Benjamin, who's actually probably good. That has never changed. Like, you watch that run, he's always probably been good. You watch Dearness Johnson, like, oh, Dearness Johnson, he's good. Like, Eno Benjamin should be good if given the chance, but it was always, will he get the chance? So Edmonds is sitting there, and they bring in Conner, and the debate was what? It was like, well, how much did they pay him? Did they pay him to the extent that you think he's going to matter in their offense? They could cut him in August. He gets hurt all the time. Maybe he's not that good, whatever. When he was healthy for Pittsburgh, the guy was fine. Like, he was another guy that he was good. He was good enough. So I liked Conner because I wanted to build teams with that second running back later, and I have a lot of Conner because of it. And he played enough, even like week 3, he started scoring touchdowns. He played enough where, like, you never were going to cut him. There was never any moment where you thought, like, I don't know if I need you. You always wanted him.
Yep.
Unless it was week 2 or something. You always wanted Conner. And now you have Benjamin, and now none of the thing about, like, what Arizona was thinking applies. You said it. They're going to go try to win. And Edmonds is down anyway. So he should play. You're right. There's no politics anymore. Now it's like, let's go win. Right. It should be like that anyway. Yeah. And the days of trying to figure out, what do they have planned? You take the 49ers in contrast, who I love how the Cardinals just went there without Murray and Hopkins and smacked them again.
I know.
Because that team makes me angry. The Bills can make me sad. The 49ers make me mad.
Yeah.
You have so many good pieces there, and you have a coach that gets all this credit. And, where are the wins, right? We've always been saying it on this show. Where are the wins? And now it's just a joke, right?
Right.
Oh, Jeff Wilson, who cares? Sermon, we don't need him. Why do we draft him? I don't know. Who cares? Who's in charge? Right. Who's actually running the 49ers? And what are their motives? And, Ayuk plays. Oh, look, he's actually productive.
Weird.
And Lance, they're like 3-5 or something. And is there any talk of Lance going in? Why not? Why wouldn't there be any talk of? Why hasn't that happened a month ago? The other guy stinks. So
yeah, no,
they make me angry.
I love your tone of voice right now because that's how I've been feeling.
Oh, Hawaii is melting behind me. Nobody knows what to do. I'm sorry.
I'm wearing a
enjoy
beanie.
The beach.
I'm wearing a beanie over here in Western New York, and you're chilling in Maui.
Check out the jellyfish on the back of this shirt.
What is that?
Can you see it?
Oh my gosh! Look at that thing. Thought that was a tattoo on your
We're
back there.
we're out here. We're out here on Monday morning, and they start setting up shops. And there's a lady. My mother-in-law knows her. They catch a fish. They catch these big fish or like a jellyfish, and she paints them, and then prints like the painted fish on the fabric.
Oh wow.
And my in-laws' point is always like, oh, you're not going to look like anybody else. And well, that's really none of my concern. But I do think it's kind of comfortable, and I got a jellyfish on my shirt. I don't know.
Love it. That's perfect.
Anyway,
I wonder if Kyle Shanahan's got one of those shirts. You know what I
mean?
Beanie
versus jellyfish. Throw out the record books. Throw out the record books on that one.
Throw them out. The Niners. These guys are. Brandon Ayuk doesn't know how to practice.
The Niners.
Trey Sermon's probably good, but we'll never know because he doesn't know how to practice. Like Kyle Shanahan, is he a fake sharp? Like what just happened? Like did he just like
Sermon is probably good. I mean, he had the Matt Waldman,
stamp
of approval. And he is probably good, but I don't know. Did he miss a curfew? And so what? Like that's the year?
Right.
And Elijah Mitchell, he probably is good too, because they're all good in the right setting. Like they're all good. So Elijah Mitchell, and you got to just every week you got to deal with victory laps or anti-victory laps on whether spending all that money. Elijah Mitchell, I don't know. How good is your team?
Right.
If your team is good, you can celebrate. It's still only week 10.
Right.
But if that's what you want to do, go ahead. Still, like I don't have any time for because would a real team do that?
Sure.
Would a real team be celebrating after week 9 because they picked up whoever or they won a certain? No, you wouldn't do that. You got to wait to the end.
That's right.
Get paid, then you can celebrate.
Yeah, that's right. So pick up, kind of going. So back to the Connor and like pick up all the running backs, get all the handcuff run. And this is something that we talked. There was a little thread this week on Twitter about handcuff running backs and how some people are it's negative EV because you can't have a handcuff, and there's people who are very successful that don't handcuff, and there are people who are very successful that do handcuff, and whatever floats your boat, whatever fits your style. But I'm telling you, no one was disappointed if they handcuffed Christian McCaffrey this year. Nobody was disappointed if they handcuffed Saquon Barkley this year. No one was disappointed this year if they handcuffed their running back, because unless it's a situation where last year if you took McCaffrey and you took Mike Davis, McCaffrey goes down for the whole year. Davis is an RB1 for the majority of the year. Yeah. If you're in a tournament, you're behind the guy that didn't have McCaffrey and has Mike Davis. Sure. But unless the guy misses the whole year, like Booker is keeping you alive, right? I have so many Saquon Barkley teams. I have Booker and a lot of them. I picked them up off waivers and a bunch, but like he's kept my teams alive. Like I'm not thinking, oh man, what about that other team that doesn't have Barkley that has Booker? Like, what do they get? Like, who cares? Like, so handcuff these running backs if you think that you should do it. Pick them up off waivers. There's leagues where I have James Conner in that I'm trying to pick up Benjamin because I want all the running backs and the handcuffs I can get. So,
well, that's right. But what is the counterpoint? The counterpoint, especially when you get to the playoffs, is you want to win the big money. You don't want to have a team with Conner or Benjamin. You want to have 2 of those. You want to have the guy who's in the lineup and then the backup who's in the lineup, because there are always going to be backups in the lineup. Sure. Whoever that is, Jeremy McNichols, like Singletary, like whoever that is. Yes. So you want to have that combination, and that, of course, is the counterpoint. It's just like everything, right? 0 RB or not.
Yeah.
They're so short. The seasons are so short. There's so much variance, so many injuries, and the schedule, and just like now the Chiefs suddenly are muted. Like, how does that make sense? Right? Baltimore, the one thing, not me, the one thing everybody agreed on about Baltimore was once you get the lead, it's over.
Yeah.
Then they went to the playoffs. They won a game from behind in the playoffs. They lost to the Bills. And now this year, like they start terribly every week. They start terribly. They get behind, and it's like, okay, now we can. They're like the Kelly Bills, who would, that's old reference, but, or like Mahomes in the playoffs when they won it. They were down 14, 21, 24 points in the playoffs. Like, so what? And Baltimore is doing that. And, who are their players?
Yeah, no, I get it.
It's Jackson. It's Jackson, and it's Brown and Andrews, and then Bateman's actually been nice. That was worth holding on to, Bateman.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's just
Bateman.
The point is, you it's just almost always, Adam. It's too soon to know the thing you think you know.
Sure. If someone said who's going to the Super Bowl today, I'd say it's Ravens versus Rams, just because you were talking about the Chiefs and all that. Like, I think some of these defenses have figured out some of these offenses for this year, and some of these offenses got cocky, and they're like, we don't need a run game. We don't, like, the Chiefs at least tried to spend a first round pick on a running back and tried to beef up their O-line this year. CEH got hurt. He's just not that good. But like, you got teams like the Bills, they can't run it. They got teams, but you got the Rams who can. You got the Ravens who can throw and run, and they're running with their quarterback. They're running with fifth string running backs. It's like, now the Ravens defense stinks, but like, it's been a wild season of unpredictability, and yeah, we're just getting started. The playoffs are right around the corner.
Their defense stinks. Who cares? I'm just getting started. It's like 4:00. What are you talking about? We're just getting started. You're so right. Even money, I have Buffalo, Dallas right now. That would be.
That would be so good.
I mean, the Bills are still the favorite even after losing to Jacksonville. So,
how are you? Do you wish you were on the radio this week after that Jags loss, or what?
I appreciate this question. I did.
I feel like I feel like you've been dying for this week for 10 weeks.
And I don't like how that feels, because like, are you dying for them to lose?
No.
When they win, I'm fine. But it's more interesting when they lose. There's more to talk about. And this week, I haven't talked to Bulldog except for I did a segment on WGR today. But really, like, yeah, I mean, that this is an interesting moment in their season. And when they beat Miami by 15 points, even though they're not good, that's not interesting at all.
Right.
You need somebody. What we had happen, this is like you and I talking off the air now, but what we had happen last week was they beat the Dolphins. Like, what was that score? 26-11 or some score like that.
Sure.
15-point win. They covered the point spread, and nobody's happy. And, Bulldog and I are in there like, okay, well, Super Bowl favorite, da-da-da. A guy calls up like an hour into the show and just is destroying them.
Yeah.
He's just, he uses a fake name, and he's destroying them for how they're terrible at this, and this. And then suddenly we have a show. Suddenly we have this program directors all about America for the last 20 years in the era of sports radio have always been telling the hosts, somebody needs to do that.
That's right.
Somebody needs to just go left, right? And Chris and I are comfortable. I'm not meaning to speak for him, but like, whatever. Like, I just want to be real, right? Like you and me. So they're fine. And then we're sitting there for an hour, twiddling our thumbs, talking about Baltimore or whatever, some other team that's interesting. Then a guy calls up and just blasts the Bills for every, Cody Ford this, and Moss is terrible. You and he would get along because you have that. You are ready to go on that Bills team yourself.
I was going to say, if you ever need someone to call up with a fake name and go ham on the Bills, you just let me know.
Going ham. By the way, you can find our previous shows on YouTube and the Draft Sharks feed, and you can read all about going ham, the origin of going ham.
That's right.
In Hawaii, we have going spam, by the way.
Ooh. No good.
Sorry. There. Yeah, it's a Hawaiian.
It's a Hawaiian.
Spam was from Hawaii?
I did not know that. I did not know that.
All right. Want to get the check?
A couple waiver wire targets before we get out of here?
Waiver wire. So Benjamin, I like JJ Taylor right now.
Really?
Well, both those guys are hurt, and you could get to Sunday and have them both miss. And then what? Bolden is 30 touches? I don't know.
Yeah.
I think like you're trying to get in the playoffs. I like JJ Taylor.
Yeah, I hope that Ramondre Stevenson's active and Damian Harris isn't. But
we need one of them and not the other.
Correct. But if we're speaking of running backs, and I know we only got a couple minutes here, and we're just coming off the Bills segment. Listen, don't do it tonight because you want to wait and see on Zach Moss, and you don't have to do it tonight.
Burrito.
But Sunday morning waivers. Antonio Williams. This guy played people. Nobody remembers this guy. You and I do.
I'm going to undo a button just for that.
This guy I drafted on a main event team in the last round. Okay. Played against the Dolphins the last week of last year. The Bills rested their starters. The Dolphins needed to win to get into the playoffs, and Antonio Williams crushed them. 140 yards, looked like the best running back on the Bills since prime Shady McCoy. And what happens? He probably doesn't practice well, and he's on the practice squad. If they get, it's probably going to be Breida. But for $1, you can pick up Antonio Williams or Matt Breida, either one of them. If Moss doesn't play, Singletary stinks. Pick up one of these guys for $1 and just see what happens.
What a call!
It's all I'm saying.
He'll be good too. They're all good. It's the moment, the opposition,
right.
the opportunity. Right. Like they're all good.
Bare
Knuckle, by the way, the Bare Knuckle team Adam and I drafted in Las Vegas after the opening game sits in 6th after last week, but we both like it.
Yeah.
And Matt Breida is on that team. I feel like I really blew like the last 6 rounds. By then, I was exhausted. Like I was just trying to get the right kicker and make sure I had defenses covered. And then picked Mike Strachan, who is promising in Colts preseason games. Jimmy Graham should have had a touchdown on Monday night, but
he should have.
I digress. And then Breida. And I walked over to you, because this is the bare knuckle where you don't have you can't use your phone, you can't use a pen, you have no notes. You're doing 28 rounds, can't talk. You're doing 28 rounds from memory on a 30-second clock. It was really the highlight of drafting. And I went over to you, and I'm just sort of like, right now I'm all sweaty. Where's Mick, right, to sort of tell me off.
That's right.
Throw a bottle in my mouth, just like, where's my water or whatever. I felt like that. And I said, no one was really listening. You and, a couple other guys.
Eric Balky was there. Balky was there watching.
Yeah. I said, I went Breida over Marlon Mack.
That's right.
That was the last pick I made in that draft, was Breida over Marlon Mack. I just felt like, because that week I felt like Breida might have been live in the Bills' backfield.
Sure.
And so he has not been, and we're to week 10, but
he should be.
Maybe.
He should be.
He's fast.
Absolutely.
He's fast. And
go.
The one thing about that team that's not good offensively is they're not fast.
Sure.
They're kind of old and slow a little bit.
Yeah. We mentioned Mark Ingram. I mentioned James Washington earlier. Tyler Johnson is another guy. We don't know if Antonio Brown's going to be ready. We don't know if Gronk is going to be ready. Godwin has a foot now that I don't know if I missed something. Like I didn't know Godwin was hurt. Like,
yep, that's new today.
Yeah, of course, Wednesday. So Tyler Johnson is certainly worth a pickup. And who's the other receiver there? I'm having a brain fart.
Evans.
No, I mean the other backup, not Evans.
Scotty Miller.
Scotty Miller might come out. They're saying he might come off the IR or whatever. He might be activated for the first time. No.
OJ Howard.
Okay. No, sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Especially at tight end. I'm just saying Scotty Miller is a guy that Brady's had some success with, but
that's right.
I would rank him behind OJ Howard and him. But yeah, so those are a couple of guys to keep an eye on.
Gio.
Why Gio?
Well, he goes up a little bit. I feel like if they get into they're playing at Washington.
Yeah.
And maybe they could get like the playoff game a little bit into a game where they have to score.
Yeah.
Maybe they're not losing, but again, thinking about that playoff game, like they were tested. And so I think Bernard, like he's somebody, I wish I'd brought him up half an hour ago, because like I've been carrying Bernard and like, what is the scenario here? Sometimes I wanted to get rid of him, and like maybe now there's still life there. Like he has had his moments, and I don't know, like you can put him in a desperation RB2 or flex situation and expect like 4 or 5 points, and maybe you get 15 out of it.
Yeah, I think to me he's J.D. McKissick, where
without the targets.
Well, because without playing from behind, like they just are, they're a really good team. And the other thing I will say is that Tampa has the best matchup this week as far as receiver strength of schedule against Washington. So maybe that is a situation where we get some of those receivers that can get in there. And if they're losing, Gio's the guy. Or if it's a very, very close game, 2-minute offense, Gio's definitely the guy. But with a team that's that talented, I mean, Washington, you're right. Washington could test them. The Bills could test them week 14. New Orleans week 15. New Orleans always plays them well.
Would you pick up Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Probably not yet. I don't even know if he's going to even come back this year.
Update today was like still not close.
Right.
But okay. Yeah, Fournette. You never asked me about my Draft Sharks Invitational team because I'm not on the sheet, but I'm up to 40th.
Are you? What a guy.
I'm late life.
That's right.
Just like a Jimmy Key fastball, just sort of like, he's going in the 80s, but it's got late life. That is my Draft Sharks team. It's been compared to a Jimmy Key fastball.
Jimmy Key. Oh my God. Listen, get into the top 24 and we'll talk.
Okay. I will. Right. I mean, maybe I will. All right. Well, it's time to get back to snorkeling. It's time to get back out there.
What do you got planned for the rest of the day? Just snorkeling?
Actually, this is going to sound like a sort of a quip, but we're going to a luau.
Of course you are. You have to. You're in Hawaii.
I know. But what am I going to have to dance? Like, what is this?
Yes.
What is this going to be?
Yes.
Dancing and drinks fine.
I want video footage.
I'll get you some.
I want video footage.
It sounds like a sort of a quippy answer, but that is actually where we're going in like 30 minutes. We're going to a luau. Tomorrow is Road to Hana. Friday is something.
You know that scene from Castaway where Tom Hanks is like he's made fire and he's dancing around. I picture that. That's gonna be you tonight.
That's me tonight.
8 Mai Tais and some dancing around
I'm sort of built like that. Tom Hanks probably put on like 50 pounds just for that scene. He's just got the big gut.
That's right.
Then he's on the plane when he gets. Well, I don't want to spoil the movie, but although it is 25 movie. Years old.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I don't know. That could happen, but there's a lot to like out here, Adam. Nobody says it, but Hawaii is beautiful.
Nobody says that. That's right.
Nobody will say it, but
I've never heard that before.
Anyway, it's nice to see you again.
Yes. When are you back, by the way? Are you back?
I'm going to take another few days.
I like it.
You come this far.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
Cool.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Let Adam know how you thought we did. And we wish you luck in week 10. Be smart tonight on the wire. And we will see you next week in the deep end. Aloha.
Aloha.